from the Charm City in Baltimore, Maryland. Marlins Radio is at Camden Yards, pumped up to get this second half going. It's going to be an 8-10 first pitch right here on the Marlins Radio Network. It's game one of this three-game interleague set between your 53-39 Miami Marlins and the 54-35 Baltimore Orioles. Marlins on deck, Strom, Kyle Sielaff, Rod Allen, game 93. Pumped to be back here after the All-Star break, and we welcome in Kyle and Rod now. We'll start with you, Rod. You know, the second half is a brand new season for a lot of players that may have struggled or not had that first half expected. Sandy Alcantara has to fall in that category, and for this team to sprint to the finish line, they'll need him. What's been most encouraging about the ways Alcantara's last 2 of 3 starts has been as we turn the page to the second half?
I had a conversation with Jacob Stallings today, and I asked him the exact question that you just asked me, what's working right for Sandy. He told me they made some tweaks in his delivery about 3 starts ago, and because of those tweaks, he's been able to get his changeup down in the strike zone. He's also been able to get his sinker down in the strike zone. Also, his four-seam fastball, still work in progress. They're trying to get that to the top of the strike zone with a lot of backspin on that pitch. It's been running on him. So they feel good about where he's at right now. And if he continues to throw the ball the way he did against the Philadelphia Phillies and some of his last couple of starts where he's really gone out there and competed, he will be the Sandy that we watched last year, and he will start to lead this staff and take some pressure off of the younger guys on the rotation.
Rod, I want to stick with you here because the rotation's an interesting piece to this second half because you're going to have Edward Cabrera that's going to eventually come up. Johnny Cueto just got called up. Who's that fourth guy you think in the rotation? Sandy, right? Brax, Luzardo. Who's that maybe fourth guy that needs to step up here in this second half?
Well, we're going to see Yuri Perez again before it's all said and done. I don't know exactly what the time frame is for us to see him again, but we will see him again before it's all done because we're going to need him if we're going to get to where we want to get to.
Yep.
Johnny Cueto did not pitch well in spring training. He really hasn't pitched all that well in the minor leagues since he's came off the injured list. But dude was good last year in Chicago. He's one of their better pitchers, and they're hoping with his track record and the fact that, you know, sometimes guys just don't pitch well in spring, they're hoping they can get something out of him. They're going to start him out in the bullpen. Skip Schumacher mentioned the fact that he wanted to find the softer landing spot for him up here before he, you know, just throws him into the fire. But Johnny's a veteran guy, man. If he's healthy, he knows how to pitch. But the key for him, he's got to be healthy.
Absolutely. Kyle Sielaff, you know, I was looking at these numbers on our plane ride here to Baltimore. You know, the Orioles over-under in the preseason was 76.5 coming to 2023. Their all-star break win pace is now 97. Ironically, the Marlins preseason win total was 74.5. Their all-star break win pace is at 93. Are there any similarities you see between these two as they've really kind of surged in 2023?
You know what's funny is I don't find many, and here's why. I think the Orioles can hit their way to victories, and I think the Marlins have found a way to pitch their way to victories. You know, I guess the similarity would be that nobody thought very highly of these two teams coming into the season. But outside of that, I do find these teams to actually be very different from each other in that the Orioles can hit a lot of home runs. You know, they come into the game tonight with 107 home runs. That's a lot of home runs. And you compare that to the Marlins' 87, right? So, I mean,
they're doing it in different ways.
Right. You know, everybody can find a way to win in a different way. Now, I will say the one similarity that I find between these two ball clubs, they both are capable of playing 7-inning games. And what I mean by that is if one of these two teams has a lead off their 7, they've got terrific back end of the bullpens. And the Orioles have a great closer. The Marlins have a very, very good closer with A.J. Puck. Call him great, whatever. I don't want that to be misinterpreted. But both of these teams like to shorten games. The Marlins like to do so by pitching extremely well, try to beat you 4-2. The Orioles, if they can get to the 7th with a 6-4 lead, they're happy that way. So there's some similarities, but a lot of differences between these two ball clubs.
Kyle, I want to follow up with you, and then, Rod, I want you to bounce off of Kyle here. What's your second half key for the Marlins to finish this race and get to the postseason?
You know, I don't know, Steve. I think the one thing that Skip has said all season long is just come to the ballpark every day and try to win a game. Yeah, I've said for a couple of weeks now that the Marlins are in a position where they're actually taking weeks off the schedule, where they're completing weeks better than they started it, but just keep showing up every day. The pressure and the intensity is going to pick up. I know at times they're not going to acknowledge that. They have played very good baseball all season long. Take it one day at a time. I know how ridiculously cliche that seems.
Yep.
But if you start thinking about the Dodgers 3.5 weeks from now, and if we get there and we're 10-10 over our last 20, and now you can't do it because that's where things start to fall apart. And I don't think this team's going to do that because they follow their leader, Skip Schumacher, and he preaches, come in here every day. We'll worry about tomorrow.
I think Skip Schumacher has done a marvelous job at making sure that these guys stay even keeled, whether they are winning or whether they're losing. He doesn't allow them to get too high or go too low, and he said as much today. He looks at every game the same. I mean, they want to win the ball game. His mentor, one of his mentors, Tony La Russa, who's a good friend of mine. I used to see Tony all the time, and I would say to Tony La Russa, how you doing today? He said, talk to me in 3 hours. And that means after the game, I'll tell you how I'm doing, because if you lose, he was not happy at all.
Yeah.
But I think all the guys are trending in the proper direction. I think the staff has done a marvelous job. I think Kim Ang and her staff, they're going to do something here at the trade deadline. I don't know exactly what it's going to be, but they're going to do something to reinforce the troops and to show the guys that they really trust them. And they're going to bring somebody in here to help this team get to where they want to go to. But by and large, Skip Schumacher and his staff and the players the first half of the season, they've learned how to win together. Lots of tight ball games, lots of one-run games, lots of extra inning games.
Yep.
They've won late. They've won early. They're back. Their 7, 8, 9 hitters have been good. There's so many similarities and good things going on with this team that are going to continue and help you win games later on.
We just talked about the things we want to see in the second half. A big point of some of the problems in the first half was the double plays. Sandy had struggled. What is maybe something from that first half that needs to be eliminated in this second half to really get this thing going in the right direction? Kyle, Rod, whoever wants to start with that, go ahead.
The double play thing is tough because to me that's so Jekyll and Hyde. We watched last season a team that struck out what felt like 20 times a game, and they were non-competitive to the point where they were having trouble winning. And I totally hear you. And I actually think they've done a little bit better in the double play department
They
lately.
really have.
But that's what you get when you build a team around contact, right? We're going to try to strike out as little as possible, and we're going to put as much pressure on the opposition as that we possibly can. Now, I'm not even saying I would like to see this as an area of improvement, but the Marlins have been so good, and in fact, they should continue this. They've been really good with runners in scoring position. The Marlins have found a way. They're not winning games 10-5, but what they have found a way to do every single night is get a big hit when they need it. Whether it's Soler, whether it's John Birdie hitting an opposite field single, Garrett Cooper, it's not just one guy. They spread the love around. They get a big hit when it matters most.
The defense, the infield defense, they come in tonight with a .990 fielding percentage in the infield, which is second most best in the big leagues.
Yep.
Who would have thunk that coming into the season? No one gave this infield a chance to be as good as they are right now. A .990 fielding percentage, which is tremendous if they continue to catch the ball at that clip and continue to run the bases aggressively and play the kind of baseball they're playing and win the games they're supposed to play. We're going to have a lot of fun here in September and October, but I just love the way the defense has played, and if they continue to pitch and defend, we're going to have a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think another area was the caught stealing and holding runners on base. I think the Marlins have done a better job at that as well. But, yeah, Rod, I totally agree. I think coming into this season, the big question with the Marlins is you have a ton of players playing out of position. Gene Segura, he's playing at third base. Luis Ariz, he's at second base. Those guys have done a really good job. Keep going.
Joey Wendell.
Jazz Chisholm going to the center field. I mean, that's been a pretty remarkable storyline. It's almost like it's funny when you talk to the bullpen guys. When they do a really good job, you don't hear anything.
Right.
But when they screw up, they're the talk of the town. Same thing here. It feels like we're not talking enough about the defense that the Marlins have put forth in 2023.
Absolutely not. Kim Ang deserves all the credit in the world because she's the one that believed if she put this offense together because she wanted to cut down on all the strikeouts. That's why Segura's here. That's why Wendell's at shortstop. That's why Ariz is at second. That's why Jazz is in center. That's why Yuli Gurriel's on the roster. So she had to put all these guys together from an offensive standpoint, and she hoped defense would gel. And the defense has gelled in a marvelous way with Skip Schumacher and his staff. This is a good defensive infield. People don't give it enough credit, but they've been outstanding.
Great stuff. Rod, Kyle, can't wait to hear you guys in just a few minutes. I missed you guys. Good to be back here on the Marlins Radio Network. 8:10 first pitch. Sandy Alcantara, Dean Kramer. It's going to be game one of this three-game interleague set, and boy, we are excited to start this second half.